Knights of Iacon, this is internet personality Vangelus, and the Soul Wave 2 Transfivemers Premier Edition Deluxe I've been after is this guy, Steelbane, who is probably one of the actual Knights of Iacon. Which isn't to say that any of you fine viewers aren't also Knights of Iacon. There are at least 11 of you according to my analytics. Anyway, this guy has a problem I need to talk about right away. His ball socket joint tolerances are 75% garbage out of the box, and it sure sounds like that's a common thing going by the fan feedback I've seen online thus far. So before I even tried transforming him, I confirmed Steelbane's floppy hips and decided to immediately set about adding some floor polish tightening treatment. Bear this in mind if you feel at all tempted to pick him up. I got him on discount. None of you should get him at his regular Premier Edition retail price. With that out of the way, once his joints actually hold together to some degree, Steelbane has a friggin' awesome robot mode. Like, it is by far the highlight of the toy. The proportions are a tad stumpy, but the surface sculpting is covered in smooth, flowing lines of knight-like livery. And several components, like the shoulder pauldrons and lower legs, received a swirling ceramic color treatment that looks pretty darn cool in person. The metallic paintwork on the chest and tabard are pretty solid as well, and did I mention the capish folded up wings? Steelbane is anything but boring to look at, in my opinion. Unfortunately, his head is kind of buried behind a lot of that stuff. He's often stuck sort of peeking out over his collar and around his shoulder pads, which is a shame because the sculpt is pretty slick and not overly movie-ish. Pleasant metallic paint on the faceplate and optics, too. All these upsides having been said, I can't ignore the part where the backs of this guy's legs are pretty brazenly full of asymmetrical dragon bits. All I've really got to say is, it's surprising how easy it is to forget that stuff is there thanks to the size and visual interest of what they're stored behind. Steelbane includes a sword, which is sculpted very busily and made out of a super bendy plastic. You can kind of tab it onto either of his hips, but it sticks backward at an overly horizontal angle. And obviously you can put it into either of his hands, because I mean, he's a knight. What else is he going to do with a sword? By the way, there are two ports that can take display stand pegs on this guy. One's on one of his flanks, and the other's on his butt. Use whatever comes most naturally. Let's be upfront here. I put floor polish into this guy's shoulders, hips, and wyvern shoulders. Let's be super clear about that. Alright, he's got a ball socket neck. He can look and nod up and down decently. He can tilt his head not all that much. Well, a little bit. And he can look left and right. He's got that kind of knightly high collar to protect his throat and chin. It also means he often looks like his head is supposed to come up a bit more, and it doesn't. His pauldrons can wiggle to get out of the way of stuff. That's pretty cool. He's got ball socket shoulders, which I needed to put some floor polish into. They can go out about that far. They can go forwards and backwards pretty decently. He's got a dedicated bicep swivel. And then, like a little micro detented elbow. This is super tight on my copy of the toy, and look at that curl. Like, that's pretty darn cool. And then he's got a wrist joint as well. This is attached to the wrist, but oddly enough, it's not that much of a problem. It's only when you want to move the wrist more this way, you might have to lift this up to get a little bit more going on. But I'm liking the geometry on this. That's better than I was expecting, for the robot mode at least. There is no waist joint because of all the transformation, but he does have hip ball joints, which were freaking loose out of the box. Like, this was embarrassing. Now they hold together much better after an application of floor polish. So he can sit down. They can go out about yay far. So he's not gymnastic, but, you know, knights. He has a dedicated thigh swivel up in there to reveal some of that darker plastic. But then he also has what I would use as a thigh swivel right here above the knee. So you got your choices. The knee is a single hinge, goes about 90 degrees. The ankles are ball socket joints, which means that they are able to tilt pretty decently and wiggle forwards and backwards. But then the top of the stem they're connected to for the transformation can also swing forwards and backwards to add, you know, a little bit of height here and there. And finally, the wings. The wings are cool because, granted, they are dragon legs, but that means they can, they're ball socket connected down here. There's a hinge and a hinge. They can pivot and move all over the place as far out or tight in as you want, and I like that a lot. And then there's a really cool thing here whereby you see this little nubbin here, there's like a thing to catch that on this larger wing flap, so if you move this up, it'll very lightly, like if you just move it, it'll go past it, but there you can see the frame. If you move it up and stop when you feel resistance, it actually locks softly together in this really cool open position. And you just try and tell me that this does not look badass as all hell. Like, I like this a lot. This guy, as a robot knight with deployable wings, is a really cool action figure. He does transform, and that's not the world's most exciting part, but it's okay. Also, I should mention, down here, there's a connection here that's supposed to go together like that, this little thing here. That comes apart super easy! It's, I might go in and maybe bulk up the tabs a little bit, because it holds together really well until I start posing them, and then it starts to come apart, and when it starts to come apart, it just exponentially continues coming apart. That's not as important as going to his transformation, though, and that's what we're gonna do right now! Spoiler alert, Steelbane turns into a wyvern-style dragon. Other spoiler alert, he does so in a drastically unpredictable way, aside from his robot arms turning into 2 of the dragon limbs. And maybe you saw how much his wings also contained his other 2 dragon limbs. Clever you. Alright, did you see how his entire friggin' spine was gonna split from neck to crotch and unfurl into the elongated center spine of his alt mode too? Well, smarty pants! I wish I could go on to talk about how solid this process is, but unfortunately it relies on a whole lot of swiveling and a whole lack of locking together. Don't get me wrong, several things do shunt together into place, but there are 2 or 3 critical places that really needed a solid connection mechanism and simply lack one. Add in the fact that a stock Steelbane has a high chance of being real darn floppy, and you could end up really frustrated with this transformation. The floor polish has helped a lot in my case. And here we are, faced with a real weird-looking wyvern. When standing like a quadruped, Steelbane is, like... I went into this wanting to say he looks like a mess. I mean, he has upturned robot feet literally sitting atop his neck and tail. But something about this rickety, gappy mode kinda endears itself to me. I think it's the solidly visible skeleton, along with the part where the tightened joints make it pretty easy to stand him up. Along with the part where I figured out, at the last minute, how to make his rear legs not look knock-kneed and awkward. It's all about swiveling them around a whole bunch. If it still looks weird, just keep turning. Keep turning them. Just keep on turning them. The dragon head does a lot for me too. It's got a cool sculpt, proper horns, and a surprisingly solid and complete set of paintwork for something that also gets crammed into one of the robot mode's calves. The teeth are pointy, the tongue is red, and the jaw can close up, if you so choose. It's called a jaw joint. You've got one. You've got a whole jaw inside your mouth. Dragon mode articulation's kind of weird to describe, because some of it is maybe more implied or maybe even not intentional, but the tail, technically, you can use the transformation joint there. This might be bent out of place, like I think you can heat and maybe fix up the tail if yours looks like mine. This part moves and swivels. There's a ball joint connection here, so it can wag and wiggle. It can't go up any farther, though, because all this stuff is just a plank, although this can move up like that. So if that suits your sensibilities a bit more, maybe, you can do that. His hind legs are his robot arms, so there is a ball socket, now hip connection, and there is a very clicky knee, although the weird curvature of the foot means there's less positions that work for this than I would have liked. There is like a swivel above the knee, a thigh swivel, I guess. You can collapse the ankle up and down a little bit and turn it left and right, but it's sculpted in a very particular weird A stance, and I find like I can't get it to look very natural outside of a few certain positions. Over here, these dragon arms have their own ball socket shoulder connection, which means they can go out, and they can wiggle forward and backwards a little bit, but not a ton. They can go out a whole bunch, though. Then this joint here kind of locks in place for transformation, but you can undo it. I just don't think it's very load-bearing. And then the wings can wiggle. Then over here on the neck, much like the tail, because it's a robot leg, you can get this to go up about that high. You can bend this here. You can swivel and wiggle the connection down there. You can swivel the connection here. Then over here you can use the ball socket joint for the head to move around in this circular range, and you can open up the mouth if you so choose. And he can look left and right pretty decently. Also, this is the part that... So this worm dragon mode is like... okay, and kind of posable, and kind of weird, and it's only working because I've tightened a whole bunch of the ball socket joints, and if you don't do that, I don't even know what this mode would be like, because I did that before I even tried transforming Steelbane. The wings, you can do a pretty neat thing with, I showed this already once before, you can do the detented connection there, but then if you hold them out like this makes him look like a legit dragon. Like, you know, worm, wyvern, or not. I guess he's not a worm, he's a wyvern. I said worm before. You dragon biologist, just let me go on this one, alright? Like, I'm not a dragon expert, but, like, check this out. Like, this dude is flying, and I kind of like the way this looks, almost to the degree where it excuses a whole lot of the weird stuff, like the feet on the tops of his neck and tail. The only problem is, I gotta tighten this some more, because as you can see, one of these arms has a lot of trouble holding up the weight of a fully extended wing. Sometimes I can get it to stick, like there. But you need floor polish for this dude. Nonetheless, like, once you get, you know, the wing flapping going, like, it's kind of cool. I just, you know, wish this locked into place. This is a weird, but not horrific, Beast Alt mode. The wonky dragon mode and propensity for being a floppy mess out of the box are two huge strikes against Steelbane being worth the pickup at regular Premier Edition prices. End of line, do not do it. That said, his joints can be tightened, his robot mode is solid with unfurlable wings that push it much higher than I expected, his transformation is, at least, creative, and his dragon mode did something to me that slowly began to win me over. It's not a great mode, not at all, but it's got enough definition and an entire alternate arrangement when the wings are fully deployed to force a smirk out of me despite my protests. I can't in good conscience recommend a retail Steelbane, but I also really like Steelbane. Anyway, this has been Internet Personality Vangelus, and this guy, plus the film, kinda made me excited for Skullatron out of nowhere. By the way, you know I've got more than one video on here about tightening joints with floor polish, right? And you know I talk about what's going on with this channel in my recent vlogs, right? Of course you do. You've watched them all. You're a friend of freedom, of truth. You're a good person.